Welcome to Daily Book Insight.
Our whole goal here is pretty simple, actually. We want to help you move from that feeling of mental chaos to a place of real calm and clarity. And we do that by digging into these amazing nonfiction books to pull out the most powerful, practical ideas. It's all about giving you a clear path forward, without all the hype and pressure.
So let me start by asking you something. Do you ever feel, well, trapped in your own head? Like you're stuck on this mental treadmill, just running and running through the same thoughts that lead absolutely nowhere? That feeling that you're caught inside your own mind and the noise is just relentless? It's totally exhausting, isn't it?
I mean, does any of this sound familiar? Replaying that one awkward thing you said in a meeting over and over and over. Or maybe spending hours just worrying about a future that, let's be honest, hasn't happened and you can't really control. Constantly second-guessing every little decision, wondering, did I make the right call? Or what about that nagging fear of what other people are thinking about you? The end result of all this? It's just this deep mental exhaustion that kind of seeps into every part of your life. If you're nodding along to any of this, trust me, you are in exactly the right place. And you know what's so frustrating? The typical advice we get is always so simple, right? Just think positive or just be grateful. And look, that advice is usually well-intentioned, but it just feels hollow. It doesn't stick. And why? Because it's not getting to the real root of the problem. It's kind of like slapping a bandage on a deep wound. Sure, it covers it up for a second, but it does absolutely nothing to actually heal it.
So today we're going to go a little deeper. We'll start with the overthinking mind and what's really behind it. Then we're going to walk through 6 powerful practices. Think of them as pillars that build a solid foundation. We're talking about living consciously, self-acceptance, responsibility, self-assertiveness, living purposefully, and personal integrity. This whole framework is really designed to get us to that ultimate goal, a clear, quiet mind.
All right, let's get into it. Why do those quick fixes, those think positive slogans, fail us so often? Well, it's because they're treating overthinking like it's the disease, when in reality, it's just a symptom of something running much, much deeper. And this is where we get this really game-changing idea from psychologist Nathaniel Branden. He basically says that things like anxiety and, overthinking, are often direct expressions of what he calls inadequate self-esteem. Or, get this, they can even be defenses we put up against feeling that inadequacy. This is huge. The big takeaway here is that overthinking isn't some character flaw you have, it's a signal. It's just your mind's kind of clumsy attempt to cope with a shaky inner foundation. Okay, so if overthinking is the symptom, then the root cause is this thing Branden calls self-esteem. It means that to find real, lasting clarity, we've got to stop fighting the symptom and start strengthening the foundation. And to do that, we first need to get a really clear idea of what self-esteem actually is. And Branden's definition here is super specific and really, really useful. It's not about feeling great all the time or thinking you're perfect. It's more like a 2-part equation. The first part is self-efficacy. Think of this as your trust in your own mind, your confidence that you can learn, make choices, and just cope with life. It's about feeling competent. The second part is self-respect. This is the other side of the coin. It's that deep down feeling that you are worthy of happiness and success. And here's the kicker. You need both. You could be amazing at your job, but feel like you don't deserve to enjoy your success. That's a lack of self-respect. And that kind of imbalance is basically fertile ground for anxiety and overthinking to grow. So when that foundation is shaky, especially the self-respect part, it creates this powerful and usually unconscious script in our heads. Branden explains this with this kind of chilling logic that starts with a really deep-seated belief, a knowing, that our fate is to be unhappy. That I must not allow reality to confuse me with happiness. Think about that for a second. If we know we're doomed, we act in ways to make that come true. So when something good happens, a great relationship, a promotion, a moment of pure joy, it doesn't feel right. It creates this inner conflict with our script. So what do? We unconsciously sabotage it. We'll pick a fight, find something to worry about, or replay a conversation to find what we did wrong. We're trying to get back to what feels normal, even if normal is unhappy, because a happy reality is just too confusing for a self-concept that's built on feeling unworthy. So the big question is, how do we rebuild this foundation? Well, Branden doesn't offer quick fixes. He offers practices, 6 pillars that we can actually build into our lives. Let's dig into the first 2, the practice of living consciously and the practice of self-acceptance.
Okay, so living consciously is really just about choosing awareness instead of avoidance. It's about respecting reality, what's happening outside of you and inside of you. It means not turning away from uncomfortable feelings, which, by the way, is basically the engine of overthinking. And this leads right into self-acceptance. Now, this is important. Self-acceptance doesn't mean you have to like everything about yourself. It's just about looking at your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and being able to say, okay, this is real. This is what's happening right now. Because at the end of the day, you can't change something you won't even acknowledge exists.
And to make this less of an abstract idea, Brandon has this brilliant little exercise. You just take a sentence stem, something like, if I bring 5% more awareness to, and you finish it, maybe to my anxiety or to my conversations. Then you just write down 6 to 10 endings as fast as you can, no filter. That 5% is the magic part. It makes it feel so manageable. This isn't about achieving some perfect state of mindfulness. It's just about gently turning up the dimmer switch on your awareness. And that's really the first step to quieting all that noise. All right, so once we have that foundation of awareness and acceptance, we can move on to the next couple of pillars. These are the practices of self-responsibility and self-assertiveness, and this is really where we start to turn our inner world into outer action. Self-responsibility is this big realization that you are the author of your life. There's this phrase Brandon uses, no one is coming. And I know that can sound a little harsh, but he means it as this incredibly liberating truth. Once you really accept that, you stop waiting around for someone to save you and you start creating the life you want. And self-assertiveness just flows right from that. It means treating yourself like you actually matter, honoring your own thoughts and needs instead of just endlessly worrying what everyone else thinks. It's not about being aggressive or pushy, it's just about being authentic.
You know, this one simple sentence reveals so much. In his workshops, Brandon would have people say this out loud. I have a right to exist. And he noticed something fascinating. People would either say it defiantly, like they were gearing up for a fight, or they'd say it apologetically, like they were asking for permission. Almost nobody could just say it with a simple, calm conviction. And that just perfectly highlights this deep struggle so many of us have with just feeling like we have a fundamental right to take up space in the world and have our own point of view without having to apologize for it.
Okay, and that brings us to the last two pillars. These are the ones that really tie everything together. They give our lives direction and a sense of wholeness. We're talking about living purposefully and living with personal integrity. So, living purposely, it's about being the pilot of your life, not just a passenger along for the ride. It's using your mind to figure out where you want to go and what you need to do to get there. This is huge because it channels all that mental energy away from pointless worry and toward productive action. And personal integrity, well, that's what keeps the pilot on course. It's when what you say you value lines up with what you actually do. When those two things don't match, it creates this inner conflict, this kind of fracture that you can't hide from yourself, and that eats away at self-esteem. So let's bring this all back. What does this all mean for that overthinker we talked about, the one who feels trapped in their own head? It means the way out isn't to fight your thoughts head on. No, the real path to clarity is to methodically, piece by piece, build this foundation of self-esteem. And this is really the most crucial point of all. Overthinking is just more thinking. It's just spinning your wheels faster and faster in the mud. The 6 pillars, on the other hand, are a guide to better thinking. See the difference? Living consciously is better than just ruminating on your anxiety. Taking responsibility is way better than worrying about things you can't control. And acting with integrity is so much better than constantly doubting your own character. Each one of these pillars helps you replace a destructive pattern of overthinking with a healthy practice of clear-minded action. So, let's look at them one more time. The key thing to remember is that these are not personality traits that you either have or you don't. They are practices. They are actions you can choose to take every single day. Just think of them as the fundamental skills for mental well-being. And just like any skill, the more you practice them, the stronger your core sense of self becomes, and the quieter and clearer your mind will be. And that brings us to one last question just for you. Please don't try to master all 6 of these at once. That's just a recipe for more overthinking, right? Instead, just look at this list and ask yourself a simple question. Which one of these pillars could I practice just 5% more, starting today? Maybe it's being 5% more aware of your feelings, or taking 5% more responsibility for your own happiness. That's it. Gentle, consistent practice. That's the real path forward. If you found this helpful, like the video, subscribe to Daily Book Insight and share it with your family and friends who want to upgrade their life.